The world is full of different kinds of people, from all walks of life. There are tall and short people, cheerful and gloomy people, and even people who like or dislike the season of spring. And then there's a very specific type of person. Among the diverse population of the world, there exists a person who slips on a banana peel. A young man named Yujioka rushes forward, catching the girl just in time. Relieved, he asks if she is all right. The girl looks up, her expression turning to one of shock and fear as she sees Yujioka's scarred face. She scrambles backward in terror. Stammering an apology, she quickly runs away, leaving Yujioka alone. He thinks to himself that there's no need for her to flee. However, he's used to this kind of reaction. He had a massive growth spurt in 4th grade, now standing at 192 centimeters. Compounded by naturally stiff facial muscles, his expressions are limited. A scar from his childhood made people around him think he was a scary person. In middle school, rumors circulated that made him seem even more like a delinquent, to the point where simple eye contact would make people run away. He wonders how he'll handle this gloomy situation on his first day of high school. Deciding there's no point in worrying, Yujioka resolves to do his best to enjoy this once-in-a-lifetime experience. Meanwhile, the girl he saved is relieved, thinking they'll never see each other again. Yujioka then heads into the school building. Upon entering his classroom, Yujioka is stunned to see the very same girl from the banana peel incident. He can't believe they're in the same class. To make matters worse, he realizes that of all people, she is assigned to be his seatmate. The girl is visibly terrified by his presence. Yujioka notes her extreme reaction. The teacher enters, congratulating the students on their admission and asking them to introduce themselves one by one. Natsumi Yok introduces herself, stating her hobby is playing the piano. Hayami Shuntaro announces his goal to compete in the national basketball tournament. Gonda Hajime shyly mentions his favorite subjects are math and science. Nishiachi Izumi says she wants to focus on her studies. As his turn approaches, Yujioka gets nervous. He hopes to smile and appear more approachable than people expect. He says he'd love to make some friends. Yujioka stands and introduces himself as Tasuku Yujioka, confident that he has rehearsed this moment perfectly. His attempt at a friendly smile comes out as a terrifying grimace as he says it's nice to meet them. The introduction horrifies his new classmates. He was so tense that he accidentally made a weird face, messing up his introduction. He sits down, dejected over how badly he messed up despite practicing his smile. Just then, he notices the girl from the banana incident get up. She introduces herself as Kazuru Shimohashizaki. Shimohashizaki nervously admits she's not good at introductions and simply apologizes. She then sits down, leaving the class bewildered as to why she didn't say anything more. Yujioka finds her behavior peculiar, wondering how she could say something like that. From that moment on, without even realizing it, he started watching Shimohashizaki. She always sits quietly at her desk, as if afraid of something. When someone tries to talk to her, she panics and quietly apologizes. She gets injured almost every day, sometimes showing up to school beaten up. Her socks often don't match. Yujioka ponders how strange Shimohashizaki seems. Yujioka overhears his classmates discussing Shimohashizaki, agreeing that she feels weird. They note that she flinches whenever they walk past her. One of them finds it annoying, as it makes them feel like they're bullying her. Yujioka feels that even if she is a little strange, they don't have to talk about her like that. The two boys suddenly notice him staring. They panic, thinking he's angry because he overheard them and that they're now in deep trouble. As Yujioka approaches, the boys cower in fear, so he apologizes for obstructing the hallway. He feels he's being treated as absolutely terrifying for no reason. The boys scurry away, commenting on his scary face. Yujioka feels a wave of exhaustion, tired of hearing people say whatever they want about him. The teacher announces that class is starting. Yujioka notices Shimohashizaki fidgeting beside him, wondering what she's doing. The teacher calls on Shimohashizaki to do some reading. She nervously agrees. Shimohashizaki struggles to pull her textbook from her bag, and Yujioka wonders if it's caught on something. The teacher impatiently tells her to hurry up. She continues to wrestle with her bag in a panic. With a final panic tug, her modern Japanese textbook flies out of her bag and sails right out the open classroom window. The textbook lands in the bushes outside. Yujioka is utterly baffled by how that could have even happened. He sees that Shimohashizaki looks genuinely terrified. The teacher asks what's taking so long. He questions if she forgot her textbook. Yujioka wonders if anyone else saw that, but since they're at the back of the class, it seems unlikely. The teacher scolds Shimo Hashizaki, telling her she can't act like she's still in middle school and should have spoken up sooner. As she starts to apologize, something happens. Before Shimo Hashizaki can take the blame, Yujioka swiftly moves his desk right next to hers. She is startled by his sudden action. The teacher looks over, confused. With another one of his unintentionally scary smiles, Yujioka tells her it's fine if they share his textbook. She stammers her agreement, and the teacher tells her to read from the top. As they are going home from school, Yujioka feels suddenly drained. He catches up to Shimo Hashizaki. He tells her he believes he saw her textbook fly out the window and offers to help her look for it. His offer sends her into another panic. Shimo Hashizaki insists that he shouldn't worry about it and quickly runs off. Yujioka watches her go, concluding that people really are scared of him. He decides that he should probably keep his distance from now on. It's Shimo Hashizaki, emerging from the bushes with her dirt-covered textbook in hand. She seems surprised to see him still there. Yujioka approaches her, holding out her textbook. She confirms that she found it. He tries to lighten the mood, joking that the whole incident was a freak accident that could have won an award if caught on camera. He internally chides himself for breaking his vow to stay away from her. He tells her he's glad she found it and begins to walk away. To his surprise, she calls out to him. He's shocked that she could actually speak that loudly. Shimo Hashizaki asks him why he helped her earlier today. He dismisses it, saying it wasn't like he was trying to help. She points out that when the teacher was scolding her and she was about to apologize, he stepped in. She asks again why he did that. Yujioka is unsure how to respond. Yujioka tells her she wasn't in the wrong, so there was no need to apologize. She is taken aback, questioning if she really didn't do anything wrong. He explains that she didn't forget her textbook, and he doubts anyone would believe the truth of what happened. He continues, saying that from watching her in class, he recalls what his classmates said about her feeling kinda weird. He tells her that what he sees is someone who is always trying so hard, and there's nothing wrong with that. His words cause her to burst into tears. Yujioka panics, asking if she's crying. Through her tears, Shimo Hashizaki confesses that she always ends up spinning her wheels. She explains that she's been clumsy and full of mistakes her whole life, feeling utterly hopeless. The more she tries to fix things, the worse her mistakes get, causing her to just go in circles. That's why, she concludes, he shouldn't get involved with her. She decided to endure the loneliness and be alone. She believes that she is the one at fault for everything. That's why she couldn't introduce herself properly. And yet, she tells him that when he said she was trying her best and that it wasn't her fault, it made her truly happy. She never knew someone could feel that way about her. She explains what happened at the entrance ceremony and sincerely thanks him. Yujioka asks if she ran away because she was scared of him. He figured she was, given his height and scary face. Shimo Hashizaki is surprised and insists that's not true, saying she doesn't think he's scary at all. She looks at him and says that he is kind. The word strikes Yujioka. He has never been called that by anyone besides his family. Yujioka thinks that if anything, he should be the one thanking her. He suddenly addresses her again, startling her. He is reminded of his goal to enjoy his youth to the fullest. He begins to say something. He asks if she would want to try making the most of their youth together. He tells her that being lonely, blaming yourself, and giving up is just too heartbreaking. He gets flustered by his own forwardness. Yujioka admits he's never had close friends and isn't sure how to say it. He then blurts out that he wants to be friends with her and nervously asks what she thinks. In response, Shimo Hashizaki leaps into the air with excitement. Yujioka is shocked by her incredibly high vertical jump. She enthusiastically accepts his offer, declaring that she will absolutely be his friend, which makes him overjoyed. Yujioka is happy that she feels the same way. Suddenly, Shimo Hashizaki notices something behind him. A soccer ball is flying at high speed toward Yujioka's head. Without a moment's hesitation, Shimo Hashizaki shoves Yujioka out of the way. She takes the full impact of the soccer ball to her face. She hits the ground with a loud thud. A soccer club member runs over to apologize as Yujioka rushes to her side. He asks in a panic why she jumped in like that. She admits that it probably would have been better to just warn him. She explains that her head gets fuzzy and she spaces out, but says it's okay. With a gentle smile, despite her bleeding nose, Shimo Hashizaki says she's alright because she was able to protect her friend. Yugioka is left completely stunned, touched by her selfless act and her heartfelt words. He feels a strange warmth in his chest. As he points out that her nose is bleeding, he reflects on his new friendship. He's finally made a friend, and while she might get carried away sometimes, she is earnest and kind. Lying in bed, Yugioka reflects on making a new friend. He recalls Shimo Hashizaki's earnestness and kindness. This newfound connection makes him truly happy, but he realizes there is one significant problem. He has absolutely no idea what to do. The thought of what friends are supposed to do together sends him into a panic as his mind races with uncertainty. He worries about the right way to act, afraid of making her uncomfortable. Having never had proper friends before, he frets that he might mess things up. After they finally became friends, he feels he's already messing it up, calling himself pathetic as he tosses and turns. The next morning, Yugioka arrives at school. He's completely exhausted, having been too worried to get any sleep. He can't stop yawning as he walks into the classroom. He sees Shimo Hashizaki already at her desk. Mustering his courage, he gives her a nervous good morning greeting. Her reaction is one of complete shock. In a flash, Shimo Hashizaki dives behind the window curtain. She completely hides herself from view. Yugioka is stunned, wondering what he did to make her so blatantly avoid him. Yugioka approaches and asks why she's hiding from him. From behind the curtain, Shimo Hashizaki explains that she's unsure how to act around friends, admitting she's never had any before. Yugioka is surprised to learn she feels the same way. She says that after giving it some thought, she came up with a plan. Peeking out from the curtain, she reveals her solution. She's decided to observe him. The suggestion leaves Yugioka completely bewildered. She explains that observing him will help her learn his habits and hobbies, which she believes is the fastest way to build a good relationship. She proudly mentions winning a gold prize for a morning glory observation project in elementary school. Fired up, she declares she'll do her best. Yugioka, recalling that he'd also been observing her, decides not to stand in her way. Shimo Hashizaki asks him to pretend she's not there, so she can focus on collecting data, causing Yugioka to compare her to a Chimaki. Yugioka wonders if that means he should avoid talking to her for a while. She agrees, wanting to keep the data collection accurate and avoid influencing the results. With a determined smile, she says she'll let him know when she's ready. From that point on, Shimo Hashizaki began watching his every move. Her attempts at being discreet were comically obvious, like pretending to read a book while watching him. She would peer from behind a pillar to observe him. She even tried mimicking a wall and staring intently from inside a trash can. Her surveillance continued outside of school, where she tried to camouflage herself with tree branches. Yugioka notes how obvious she is. Her strange behavior starts to attract weird looks from people passing by. Despite her odd methods, Yugioka decides it's fine since Shimo Hashizaki seems to be enjoying herself. He realizes that he also wants to find his own way to grow closer to her as friends. He starts a notebook, titling the page "Things I Want to Do with a Friend." The next day at school, he goes to his shoe locker. He notices something tucked inside. He finds a note inside his locker. The note reads, "I'll be waiting in the courtyard." He realizes this must be the signal from Shimo Hashizaki and quickly heads to the courtyard. However, when he arrives, he's met by 3 intimidating upperclassmen. Yugioka is confused and wonders who they are. One of the students tells Yugioka they've been waiting for him. Yugioka realizes with dismay that they wrote the note. Another student identifies him as the legendary Yugioka from Kane Middle School, a master of bare-handed fighting. The leader angrily grabs Yugioka's collar, demanding to know who he thinks he is. Yugioka is terrified, realizing this is exactly the kind of trouble he tried to avoid. He desperately wishes for someone to help him. Other students watch from a distance, remarking on the scary delinquents and how Yugioka must be one of them. Internally, Yugioka panics, knowing all the rumors are nonsense and that he's just a nerd whose hobby is jigsaw puzzles. He's never even punched anyone or been in a fight. He is absolutely terrified at that moment, but he realizes that to everyone else, he must look just as scary as the delinquent accosting him. He remembers Shimo Hashizaki telling him she wasn't scared of him. He wonders if she would still feel the same way now. His thoughts are interrupted by the delinquent, who grows angrier at being ignored. The delinquent throws a punch. Yugioka closes his eyes, hating the situation. Just then, a figure zooms past in a blur. With a loud thud, Shimo Hashizaki, wearing a traffic cone on her head, headbutts the delinquent, knocking him out cold. All three delinquents are now on the ground, defeated, as Shimo Hashizaki stands over them. Yugioka looks on, completely stunned by what just happened. She takes off the cone with a sigh of relief. Yugioka, still in shock, calls out her name. Shimo Hashizaki turns and yells at the unconscious boys to stop the violence. Yugioka is bewildered by her statement. She worriedly asks if he's all right. She explains that she was observing him when she saw he was about to be punched. Yugioka tries to explain that it's all a misunderstanding and not his fault. His greatest fear is that this incident will make Shimo Hashizaki afraid of him. But Shimo Hashizaki surprises him by declaring that Yugioka is a really kind person. She explains that after observing him for the past few days, she has come to understand this. She lists all the kind acts she witnessed, him helping a cat, changing the water for the classroom flowers, turning in lost items, and even worrying about her. She concludes that he's always been kind. She was afraid the delinquents might try to scam him, which is why she intervened. She admits that while she isn't very reliable, she wants him to please let her protect him. Yugioka is deeply moved, thinking about how Shimo Hashizaki always gives everything her all. He believes that her sincerity is a true form of strength. The thought of someone like him being protected strikes him as so absurd that he can't help but laugh. He bursts into a hearty laugh, startling everyone. Looking at Shimo Hashizaki, he tells her that her sincerity is precisely why he wants to be with her. With a genuine, happy smile, Yugioka confesses that he's never been this happy before in his life. The defeated delinquents are in awe, declaring Yugioka the strongest man. Vowing not to forget this, they make a hasty escape. Yugioka and Shimo Hashizaki are left alone. Shimo Hashizaki shyly asks if she did something weird again. Yugioka smiles warmly and tells her no, thanking her for protecting him. Shimo Hashizaki giggles, overjoyed. Yugioka asks if this means her observation is over, and she confirms it is. She promises to present the results of her research from her notebook to him soon, to his confusion. Yugioka then reveals that he also wrote down some notes. He opens his own notebook. He tells her he wishes he could be as strong as she is. His notebook contains the list of things he wants to do with a friend. Starting from that moment, he suggests they walk home together today, side by side. Shimo Hashizaki grins, agreeing, and so their youth truly begins. While walking with Shimo Hashizaki and another classmate, Yugioka is filled with a sense of dread. He feels completely powerless. Yugioka is surprised at how quickly things have progressed to them walking home together. He realizes he has absolutely no plan for what to do or say. Lacking any experience in these situations, he worries that the silence will make Shimo Hashizaki feel awkward. He feels he must avoid that at all costs. His mind races as he tries to recall anything that could help him start a conversation. He desperately tries to squeeze out a clue from his past experiences. He remembers his middle school days when, fearing he'd graduate without ever having a real conversation, he turned to a self-help book on making friends. Suddenly, he remembers a key piece of advice from the book: start a conversation by talking about recent events or things you have in common. A wave of inspiration hits him. He abruptly calls out Shimo Hashizaki's name. Startled, she asks him what's wrong. He hesitates, trying to think of something recent they have in common. Taking the book's advice literally, Yugioka awkwardly asks Shimo Hashizaki if she likes walking. He identified their current activity, walking, as both a recent and common event. He immediately cringes, berating himself for asking such a strange question. He thinks his conversation skills are hopelessly bad. To his utter shock, Shimo Hashizaki simply replies that she does. With a gentle, happy smile, Shimo Hashizaki confirms that she likes it. She explains that her walks to and from school used to be lonely, but since becoming friends with Yugioka, everything is different. She started noticing the simple beauty around her, like flowers on the roadside. She tells him that noticing these things makes her happy. Yugioka is completely floored by her heartfelt words. His heart pounds in his chest from the overwhelming feeling. Shimo Hashizaki, realizing he must like walking too, happily grabs his tie. Blushing, Shimo Hashizaki asks if they can make a quick stop at the convenience store. Yugioka agrees to wait for her. She thanks him and dashes inside, telling him she'll be right back. As he waits, Yujioka tries to process the intense emotions from their conversation. He waits patiently for her to return. He reflects on her words about the beautiful sky. He recalls her mentioning the cute flowers by the road. He realizes he feels the same way. Just then, Shimo Hoshizaki returns, thanking him for waiting. She emerges from the store carrying an enormous armful of assorted hot buns. Yujioka stares in astonishment. Shimo Hoshizaki explains that she figured they must be hungry since it's that time between school and dinner. Yujioka admits that he does get hungry. She happily offers him as many as he'd like. She gives him a bun. After a moment, he offers to pay her back for it, asking for the price. Shimo Hoshizaki insists that it's fine, explaining she just wanted to do it. She then trails off, thinking of another way he could repay her if he really wants to. Looking at him with hopeful eyes, she shyly asks if he would walk home with her again tomorrow. She continues, adding that she wants to walk home with him the day after tomorrow, and the day after that as well. She clutches the buns to her chest as she makes her heartfelt request. Yujioka is left speechless. Yujioka suddenly exclaims that her proposal is not good, shocking Shimo Hoshizaki. He quickly tries to backtrack, begging her not to misunderstand. He assures her he's very happy she wants to keep walking home with him, but that his concern applies to any kind of relationship. He explains that he thinks being clear about money is important in any relationship. He suggests they save gifts for special occasions. Shimo Hoshizaki agrees, saying he's totally right. They both apologize for being so intense and awkward. Yujioka clarifies that he feels the same way she does. He wants to walk home with her every day. He explains that his feelings have nothing to do with the buns she bought. Shimo Hoshizaki is overjoyed, admitting she was worried he might turn her down. Yujioka reassures her that he would never turn her down without a reason. He tells her he is really happy and wants to hear all about the things she wants to do together from now on. She happily agrees. Just as they reconcile, Shimo Hoshizaki's stomach growls loudly. Embarrassed, she suggests they eat. Yujioka warns her to be careful because the buns are hot. She takes a big bite and immediately burns her tongue, crying out in pain. He panics, asking if she needs a cold drink. She refuses, not wanting to be a bother. Shimo Hoshizaki tries to cool her tongue by sticking it out. The sight leaves Yujioka dying of second-hand embarrassment. Yujioka reflects that he's never had friends before and is still figuring things out. He wonders if this heart-pounding feeling is what having a friend is like. The next morning, the 12 buns, paid for by Shimo Hoshizaki, became breakfast for the Yujioka family. After school, Yujioka realizes that Shimo Hoshizaki has already left the classroom. Wondering if she's already headed home, he walks through the hallway. He hears a noise from the nearby preparation room, which catches his attention. He cautiously approaches the door, calling out her name. Upon opening the door, Yujioka is confronted with a shocking scene where a girl has Shimo Hoshizaki cornered against the wall. Yujioka is left speechless, trying to process what he's seeing. The girl notices Yujioka's presence. Shimo Hoshizaki, in her dazed state, thinks the girl looks pitiful. Yujioka, convinced Shimo Hoshizaki is in danger, decides he has to help and rushes forward. However, he trips and falls spectacularly on his face. The girl stands over them, her expression unreadable and her presence imposing. Yujioka is immediately intimidated, identifying her as a Jaru. He considers her the complete opposite of a self-proclaimed shadow dweller like him. He nervously stammers, asking what she wants with Shimo Hoshizaki. The girl explains she wanted to ask Shimo Hoshizaki something, but couldn't even make eye contact. Yujioka assumes Shimo Hoshizaki, overheated from the stress of being cornered. As he feels himself reaching his own limit, he panics. The girl observes that his state is perfect for her purpose. Deciding that Yujioka will have to do, she makes her assessment. She approaches him with intent. In a sudden move, she pins a stunned Yujioka against the wall, mirroring the way she had held Shimo Hoshizaki moments before. Yujioka is completely stunned by the sudden turn of events. With Yujioka trapped against the wall, she gets straight to the point, asking him directly if he is dating Shimo Hoshizaki. Yujioka frantically denies her accusation and demands to know how she knows his name. She introduces herself as Tamba Tauko, revealing that she's his classmate. She points out that she sits right in front of him, much to his shock. From his bewildered reaction, Tamba concludes that they are not, in fact, dating. Tamba presses him further, correctly deducing that he has a one-sided crush. She then asks him directly if he likes Shimo Hoshizaki. Yujioka is left speechless once again. The realization of his feelings for Shimo Hoshizaki hits Yujioka with immense force. His internal shock is palpable. Tamba warns him to be quiet, concerned he might wake Shimo Hoshizaki up. As he covers his mouth, Yujioka reflects on his relationship with Shimo Hoshizaki. He had always believed she was simply his first friend. But now he begins to question when his feelings for her changed into something more. He wonders if his feelings for her were there from the very beginning. He seems to come to a quiet realization. Having finally acknowledged his feelings, a blush spreads across Yujioka's face. He looks down at the still unconscious Shimo Hoshizaki as he begins to speak her name. Still flustered, Yujioka asks Tamba how she could possibly know about his crush. She explains that she saw them together at the convenience store. Tamba admits she thought their dynamic would make a great story. Yujioka panics, thinking she might spread rumors about him. His mind flashes to the awful things people already say about him, imagining them twisting the story. He becomes flustered at the thought. To his surprise, Tamba pulls out a notebook and a pen. She reveals her true intention: she wants to interview him. Yujioka is baffled. Tamba explains that it's for a romantic comedy her manga club is working on, and she believes realism is vital. Yujioka is shocked to learn she's in the manga club. Tamba playfully asks if he's surprised that someone so cute and talented exists. Yujioka, flustered, admits that being interviewed is difficult since he just realized his own feelings. Amused, Tamba notes his inexperience. She then proposes a deal. Leaning in close, Tamba offers to help Yujioka with his love life in exchange for his cooperation with the interview. Yujioka stammers in confusion at her offer. As they talk, Shimo Hoshizaki's eyes begin to flutter open. In a humorous aside, Yujioka fantasizes about being in Shimo Hoshizaki's place, wishing he was the one being pinned against the wall. Continuing from their previous conversation, Tamba leans in and offers to help Yujioka with his love life. The proposition leaves him utterly stunned. Yujioka is completely flustered and at a loss for words. Suddenly, Shimo Hoshizaki awakens and shouts a warning to Yujioka. She tackles Tamba away from him. In a surprising display of strength, Shimo Hoshizaki puts Tamba in a sleeper hold. She explains to a shocked Yujioka that she believes Tamba is an assassin. Shimo Hoshizaki recounts how Tamba lured her into the empty room and relentlessly questioned her about Yujioka. Shimo Hoshizaki's imagination runs wild, convinced that Tamba is a spy gathering intelligence on Yujioka. She asks Yujioka if anything happened while she was unconscious. Trying to de-escalate, Yujioka clarifies that Tamba is just a classmate and is currently being suffocated. After releasing her hold, Shimo Hoshizaki apologizes profusely for jumping to the wrong conclusion, while Tamba compliments her technique. Yujioka grows increasingly anxious, worrying the two girls might discuss his romantic life. Tamba smooths things over, patting Shimo Hoshizaki's head and properly introducing herself as a classmate. She explains that she sought them out because she needs help with a manga she's creating. The topic of manga immediately piques Shimo Hoshizaki's interest. Yujioka realizes she is completely hooked. Shimo Hoshizaki excitedly confirms she loves manga, mentioning a series she borrows from her brother. Tamba recognizes the series and passionately shares her own love for it, revealing her family are big fans. Yujioka watches in confusion, bewildered by their sudden friendship. Shimo Hoshizaki asks if Tamba is sure she wants their help, since they've never even spoken before. Meanwhile, Yujioka silently pleads for Tamba not to say anything about his romantic feelings. Tamba explains her reason for choosing them was simply that they were sitting near each other and seemed available, much to Yujioka's dismay. However, Shimo Hoshizaki is completely convinced by the explanation. Tamba asks if they would be willing to meet her early at school the next day to help with her project. Shimo Hoshizaki eagerly agrees. With their plans set, Tamba bids them farewell until tomorrow. As she leaves, Tamba leans close to Yujioka and quietly tells him he'd be smart to take her offer of help. He is left stunned as she walks away. Yujioka reflects that Tamba came and went like a storm. He then suggests that they should head home as well. A beaming Shimo Hoshizaki agrees. The two walk out of school together. On their way home, Shimo Hoshizaki comments that despite the odd first impression, Tamba seems like a good person and she's looking forward to tomorrow. Yujioka agrees, though he's internally overwhelmed. Yujioka feels an unfamiliar tightness in his throat. He wonders if this sensation is what it means to be in love. Feeling completely worked up, he clenches his fist. He suddenly calls out Shimo Hashizaki's name, and she turns to him. Trying to distract himself from his feelings, Yujioka asks about the manga she mentioned earlier, Ponkatsu Brothers. Shimo Hashizaki excitedly pulls out a copy and begins explaining the plot about a bumbling hitman and his dog sidekick. She reveals the major twist: the hitman's long-lost brother is the enemy boss. As she continues to gush about the series, Shimo Hashizaki hugs the book with a look of pure joy on her face. Watching her speak so passionately, Yujioka has a sudden, powerful realization: he loves her. He struggles to contain his overwhelming emotions. He is worried that he might blurt out his feelings if he's not careful. The next morning, Tamba thanks Shimo Hashizaki for meeting her so early in the classroom, explaining it's easier to work when no one is around. Tamba confirms that Shimo Hashizaki has only ever read manga, never drawn it herself, and offers to help with any questions. Shimo Hashizaki, eager to help, promises to try her hardest and not let Tamba down. Tamba tells her to take a seat, though Shimo Hashizaki seems to hesitate. Once settled, Shimo Hashizaki looks around and asks if Yujioka has arrived yet. Tamba nonchalantly replies that she doesn't know. She suggests he might just be running late. Tamba coolly remarks that he must not be the dependable type after all. Shimo Hashizaki insists that being late is not like Yujioka, as he's usually very punctual. As she prepares to go look for him, Tamba stops her. Tamba casually mentions that he overslept and will be late. Tamba jokes that he used a carrier pigeon. Meanwhile, Yujioka is miserably crammed inside a locker. He complains that the space is cramped, his body hurts and it smells strange. He wonders how he ended up in this situation. The story flashes back to 10 minutes earlier. He and Tamba were alone in the classroom, with Tamba noting that he was, as expected, early. She explained that she would help with his love life as a bonus while doing her research. Yujioka had asked Tamba what exactly she meant by helping his love life. She nonchalantly told him that he was going to hide in the closet. Yujioka was completely baffled by the instruction. Tamba elaborated on her plan. Once Shimo Hashizaki arrived, she would casually ask about her feelings for him. Yujioka was horrified, asking if she wanted him to eavesdrop. He expressed concern that tricking people was wrong. Tamba reframed the situation, suggesting he could pretend he was just in the locker for fun and happened to overhear their conversation, so he would have no reason to feel guilty. Tamba reassured him that based on what she saw yesterday, Shimo Hashizaki couldn't possibly have a bad impression of him. A doubtful Yujioka sought confirmation. Tamba insisted that she was absolutely certain. Yujioka was still hesitant, feeling it was too much. To convince him, Tamba asked if he didn't want to witness his crush listing all the things she likes about him. Despite Yujioka's protests, Tamba forcefully shoved him into the locker, telling him to quit whining. She dramatically declared that he would be the cornerstone of her greatest masterpiece. Once inside, Yujioka could only wonder what kind of mad scientist line that was. The flashback ends. The story returns to the present, where Yujioka is uncomfortably twisted inside the locker. In the classroom, Tamba gets Shimo Hashizaki's attention, saying she wants to ask a few questions before Yujioka shows up. Shimo Hashizaki confirms that this is for the manga research Tamba mentioned and eagerly offers to answer anything. Tamba thanks her, calling her a lifesaver. She prepares to ask her question. Without any subtlety, Tamba bluntly asks Shimo Hashizaki if she likes Yujioka. From inside the locker, Yujioka is completely caught off guard by the direct question. Yujioka internally panics, thinking Tamba owes the very concept of subtlety an apology. To his shock and dismay, Shimo Hashizaki looks confused and states that she doesn't like him. The answer causes his world to crumble. However, Shimo Hashizaki clarifies with a blush that she really likes him. Yujioka is stunned into silence by the sudden reversal. Yujioka celebrates silently in the locker. Tamba excitedly asks what Shimo Hashizaki likes about him. Shimo Hashizaki explains that he's kind, never abandoned her and always takes her seriously, as if she actually matters. Overhearing this, Yujioka is overcome with emotion, realizing she feels the same way he does. Shimo Hashizaki concludes her thoughts, stating that Yujioka is really important to her because he's a dear friend. The declaration shatters Yujioka's hopes. Tamba is taken aback, questioning if Shimo Hashizaki only likes him as a friend and not in a romantic, couple-like way. Shimo Hashizaki seems confused by the idea of being a couple, admitting she's never thought about it before. She adds that she doesn't really understand those kinds of feelings. Tamba presses, asking if she has seriously never thought about dating. Shimo Hashizaki admits she has never felt the need for it. She clarifies that her relationship with Yujioka isn't like that at all. With a bright, sincere smile, Shimo Hashizaki reaffirms that she really likes Yujioka-kun. She then delivers the final blow to Yujioka's heart by declaring that she just wants them to be the best of friends. This is described as a feeling so close to love, yet the furthest thing from it. Still trapped in the locker, Yujioka processes the crushing reality. Her feelings are just friendship. Yujioka is left speechless inside the locker. Flustered, Shimo Hashizaki apologizes. She quickly explains that she's never really had any friends before, which is why her feelings are so strong. She adds that she feels incredibly happy. She then asks Tamba if her explanation was a sufficient answer. Tamba, looking slightly uncomfortable, confirms that it was helpful. Shimo Hashizaki expresses her relief. Suddenly, Tamba gets up to leave, saying she needs to use the bathroom. As she passes Shimo Hashizaki, she quietly asks her to keep their conversation a secret from Yujioka. This request leaves Shimo Hashizaki confused. Tamba explains that it is just a bit embarrassing. She hurries out of the room. Shimo Hashizaki is left alone with her thoughts. Left alone, Shimo Hashizaki panics, realizing the gravity of the situation. She understands that her and Yujioka have completely different ideas of what love means, with hers being friendship. She berates herself for her bad habit of charging ahead. She thinks she has messed up badly. As she stews in her anxiety, the classroom door creaks open. The sound of approaching footsteps makes her flinch in anticipation. Yujioka emerges from the locker and stands before her. Shimo Hashizaki looks up at him, stunned. He notices she's sweating and asks if she is okay. Internally, Shimo Hashizaki is in turmoil, realizing she hadn't taken the situation seriously enough. To her surprise, Yujioka simply tells her that it's fine. Yujioka calmly repeats that he's fine. Shimo Hashizaki stares at him, still flustered and confused by his composed reaction. The next day, Tamba arrives at school and is pleased to find Yujioka already there. She greets him enthusiastically. He returns the greeting to both her and Shimo Hashizaki. As they sit down, Yujioka apologizes for being late the previous day. Tamba brushes it off, admitting she's often late herself. She recounts a time she came to school half asleep with mismatched shoes. Yujioka finds this odd, since their school doesn't have a strict shoe policy. Tamba clarifies that she had accidentally worn roller skates to school. This mistake made her morning 5 times more chaotic, as she had to run all the way home and then sprint back to school. Yujioka laughs at Tamba's story. His gaze drifts towards Shimo Hashizaki, who sits quietly nearby. He thinks of her. He reflects on their relationship, noting that she is kind and laughs with him. He thinks about how she calls him a friend. He acknowledges that even this simple connection is rare and precious to him. Despite knowing this, he can't help but feel a sense of longing. He admits to himself that he let his hopes grow for something more than he should have. Yujioka says goodbye to Shimo Hashizaki, telling her he'll see her at school the next day. She agrees, wishing him the same. As he walks away, she watches him, a blush on her face. She seems to be struggling with something she wants to say. Yujioka turns back, asking Shimo Hashizaki what's wrong. She calls his name, trying to find the words to ask him something. Losing her courage, she quickly insists it's nothing and runs away, telling him she'll see him tomorrow. Yujioka stands there, puzzled by her sudden departure. He concludes that it was probably nothing important. As he walks up the stairs to the train platform, a voice calls out to him. Tamba appears at the bottom of the stairs, having caught up to him. Yujioka is startled by her sudden appearance. She asks if he has been avoiding her, but he suggests she might be imagining things. Tamba angrily retorts that he is definitely avoiding her, describing how he ducks behind things whenever she turns around. Tamba sincerely apologizes for messing with his feelings just because she was curious. Yujioka throws his hands up, telling her to wait. He insists that he has already told her he's fine. Tamba still seems unconvinced. Yujioka explains that, if anything, he's grateful for what she did. He elaborates that Shimo Hashizaki wouldn't be pleased by a confession from him, so Tamba saved him from messing up. Tamba listens, completely shocked by his self-deprecating words. Tamba interrupts him, insisting that Shimo Hoshizaki truly values him as a friend and nothing more. Yujioka agrees, saying that he knows Shimo Hoshizaki isn't like that. He adds that she's kind to everyone, and he was foolish to think he was an exception. He concludes that he got ahead of himself, but understands the situation better now. His mind is flooded with memories of people reacting to him with fear, reinforcing his belief that he is nothing but an embarrassing mess. Tamba shouts that what he's saying isn't true. She asks why he would think of himself as embarrassing and tells him not to be so hard on himself, as his feelings belong to him alone. She tells him that she will listen because his feelings matter to her too. Yujioka stares intently at Tamba. She stands her ground, waiting for his response. He quietly asks what she means. He tells her that she couldn't possibly understand how he feels. Yujioka explains that people found him intimidating just because he was tall. Tamba listens quietly. He continues, saying he was treated like he was dangerous, and people spread rumors about him, even though he never did anything wrong. Tamba is visibly upset by his story. He rhetorically asks who could possibly understand what he's been through. He asks despairingly who could ever fall for someone like him. Tamba quietly says that no one will love him. She then vehemently clarifies that it will only be true if he keeps thinking about himself that way. She grabs his arm, telling him to wake up and realize he's in high school now. Grabbing his shirt, she concedes that at first glance he might seem scary because he's huge, has a rough vibe, and his smile is terrible, but she doesn't stop there. With tears streaming down her face, she passionately declares that despite all that, he is actually a great person. Embarrassed by her own outburst, Tamba runs away. Yujioka watches her go, still processing what just happened. He notices he's holding the keychain that fell from her bag. He looks after her, completely stunned and confused. At her house, Shimo Hoshizaki is busy working at her desk. She blushes and giggles to herself. She looks at her work, thinking that with this, Yujioka will. The next day at school, the atmosphere is tense. Yujioka walks through the school, accompanied by a nervous Tamba. As he approaches the classroom, he can't help but think how awkward everything has become. His mind keeps replaying Tanba's tearful, impassioned words from the night before. He believes she genuinely meant what she said. Taking a deep breath, he resolves to face the day. He slides open the classroom door to find Shimo Hoshizaki already at her desk. As they sit at their desks, the tension grows. Yujioka notices Shimo Hoshizaki's incredibly stiff expression. He asks her what's wrong with her face. With a nervous look, she points and tells him to look behind him. Confused, Yujioka wonders what could be behind him. When Yujioka turns around, he is completely shocked by the bizarre sight before him. The girl is Shimo Hoshizaki, who lanes in clothes and wishes him a good morning with a loud beep. Yujioka and Tamba are left speechless by the sudden, strange performance. The entire class watches the peculiar scene unfold. She delivers a second beep, which she calls the final blow. The absurdity of the situation is too much for Yujioka, and he fails to suppress a laugh. Struggling to contain his laughter, Yujioka expresses how glad he is. Shimo Hoshizaki, now without her disguise, looks at him with a blush and happily points out that he smiled. Yujioka seems surprised to hear it. Shimo Hoshizaki explains her concern, noting that he had seemed down lately and hadn't been smiling. Yujioka is touched by the realization that she was worried about him. She continues, saying she has been thinking about something. She believes he's been in a rut. Yujioka is confused by her statement. She explains her logic, since he's always kind to her but she isn't very interesting. She concluded that he must be getting tired of her. She passionately declares that she wants him to be happy and to smile when they're together. Yujioka tries to reassure her that she's already fun to be around, but her determination is unwavering, and for her friends, she vows to become a more varied person. Her next move is to pull out a ukulele, announcing that she is going to sing. Yujioka is horrified, realizing this has escalated to a full-on solo act. Shimo Hoshizaki begins to strum her ukulele. She sings with earnest passion. Her impromptu concert leaves the other students in the classroom completely baffled. As Yujioka watches, he thinks that while she is trying so hard, her efforts are totally off track. Still, he recognizes that she went all out just to make him smile. Her attempt was so wild and over the top that it circled back around to being amazing. Watching her pour her heart into the song, Yujioka is mesmerized, thinking to himself that she is truly shining. With a slight blush, Yujioka continues to watch her, completely captivated. Tamba observes his reaction to the performance. The rest of the class looks on at the strange but heartfelt spectacle. The classroom falls silent as Shimo Hashizaki's song ends, and she catches her breath. Yujioka sits in stunned disbelief, wondering if the surreal performance with the ukulele was just a dream. The silence is broken by applause. Yujioka and Tamba both clap for Shimo Hashizaki's performance. She looks overwhelmed and flustered, but happily thanks them for their support. Yujioka asks Shimo Hashizaki if his cheering her on helped. He then asks if he can ask her something important, and she readily agrees. Yujioka opens up to her, describing a situation where he feels he's not cut out for something and knows giving up would be easier. Yet a part of him refuses to let go. He clenches his fist and asks what she would do in his place. Tamba, listening from her seat, is shocked that Yujioka is confiding in Shimo Hashizaki. She concludes it must be because he trusts Shimo Hashizaki the most, feeling a pang of jealousy that her own words don't seem to have the same effect. Meanwhile, Yujioka waits anxiously for an answer, feeling lost. Shimo Hashizaki looks at him with understanding and asks if he still has feelings for the girl he likes. She observes that he's been struggling so much because he cares very deeply. She then offers her advice, telling him that it's okay to try. She insists that it's okay to fight for someone you love. It doesn't matter if he's not good at it, if things don't go well, or even if he knows he might fail. Looking at him with conviction, she declares that none of those fears are a reason to give up. Her words strike a chord with Yujioka, who realizes she's the one who taught him this important lesson. Inspired, he looks at her and asks if she would try living out their youth together with him. A bright, happy smile spreads across Shimo Hashizaki's face as she wholeheartedly agrees. Yujioka is left speechless, taken aback by her heartfelt acceptance. With his back to her, Yujioka processes her words, feeling a renewed sense of hope that it's okay for him to keep trying. Their moment is interrupted by the school bell and a classmate urging everyone to take their seats. He tells a flustered Shimo Hashizaki to put away her ukulele. As class begins, Yujioka and Shimo Hashizaki sit at their desks, a quiet understanding and a new chapter beginning between them. Later, Yujioka and Tamba meet, and Tamba apologizes for throwing her bag at him. Yujioka apologizes for his bitter reaction and for taking it out on her. They bow to each other, formally putting the incident behind them. Yujioka then tells Tamba that he's decided not to let go of his feelings for Shimo Hashizaki. He admits that she might never feel the same way, but it's something he wants to hold on to. Tamba agrees that it's a good decision. Yujioka then sincerely thanks her for calling him a good guy, saying it meant a lot. Tamba looks at him and remarks that he's the second person in her life to say that. Yujioka lightheartedly teases her for acting cool after crying. They wave goodbye. As Yujioka walks away, Tamba watches him go. A question begins to form in her mind. She wonders to herself if things would have been different if she had been the first one, questioning if he would have cared for her then. She sighs, calling the thought stupid. Her attention is caught by two classmates chatting nearby. She overhears them discussing Shimo Hashizaki's strange ukulele performance. They mention how Yujioka, who they thought was scary, clapped enthusiastically. They agree that he actually seems like a good guy, and Tamba listens. Hearing their words confirm Yujioka's kind nature, Tamba lets out a small, knowing laugh and sits on a ledge overlooking the city. Several days later, in early July, the story picks up. Yujioka feels he is facing an unavoidable crisis. With a click of his watch, he acknowledges the do-or-die situation. The crisis is revealed to be the first-year final exams, with the teacher announcing their start. Yujioka immediately begins writing his name on the test paper. His expression is one of extreme concentration. Overwhelmed by the pressure, Yujioka's mechanical pencil lead snaps. He glances over and sees Shimo Hashizaki focused on her own exam. The results are in, and it's a complete failure. Yujioka collapses onto his desk in despair, surrounded by his low-scoring test papers. He panics, worrying about how his sister will react to his failure. He recalls that this school, one of the top in the prefecture, was the one his family let him attend when he wanted to go somewhere far from home. After pushing himself and miraculously getting in, this mess is the result of his efforts. He berates himself for being a delusional moron, chasing a foolish idea of youth. An imaginary Tamba appears in his mind, telling him not to go to the dark side again. A rustling sound catches his attention. He sees Shimo Hoshizaki looking at her test results with what appears to be a pained expression. Yujioka is shocked, believing there's no way she could have failed too. He wonders aloud if she got the same score as him. He imagines them as partners in a Red Marks festival. Based on the way she's looking, he feels certain that she also failed. He calls out to Shimo Hoshizaki, startling her. Yujioka tells her he knows how she feels, finding a kindred spirit in their supposed failure. He admits that when he tries to study, he gets distracted and ends up deep cleaning his room instead. He passionately suggests that if they team up, they can beat the makeup exam together. Shimo Hoshizaki shows him her test papers, which are filled with high scores. Yujioka leans forward, dumbfounded by what he sees. He slowly backs away, still processing the shock. Confused by his reaction, she calls out his name. Yujioka's mind races in utter confusion, unable to comprehend what is going on. He expresses his disbelief, having been so sure they were Red Mark buddies. He finally realizes that she is actually good at studying. Shimo Hoshizaki clarifies that she wasn't upset, just very scared she would mess up. She explains that she simply reviews and prepares every single day, a concept that astounds Yujioka. Feeling embarrassed, he apologizes for his wrong assumption. Yujioka laments being an idiot for cramming at the last minute despite knowing that daily effort is important. Shimo Hoshizaki suddenly tells him that's not true. She insists that it's not about past mistakes but what he does next, expressing her belief that he can bounce back. She reminds him of his own words, saying that if it's the two of them they can succeed, and she'll make sure he stays on task. Moved by her words, Yujioka feels he understands her feelings and resolves not to show her his lame side. He thanks her and formally asks for her help studying in the library after school. Shimo Hoshizaki enthusiastically agrees, promising to teach him her foolproof method. They make their way to the library to begin their study session. Yujioka is confronted with a giant stack of textbooks. Shimo Hoshizaki proudly unveils her ultimate strategy: simply memorize everything that could possibly be on the test. Yujioka is aghast, pointing out that her method isn't a strategy but sheer brute force. Shimo Hoshizaki earnestly encourages him, saying they should do their best together. Completely overwhelmed, Yujioka can only stammer in response. An hour later, the study session has come to an abrupt end because Yujioka, unable to endure the suffering, began cleaning the library's air purifier. As for what happened with his retake score, the truth remains a mystery. Shimo Hoshizaki asks Yujioka if he brought the notebook. He confirms he has the notebook where they list things they want to do together. She excitedly reveals that there's something special she wants to try, an activity perfect for the summer. Yujioka's sister, Kaname, excitedly asks if he's going to the beach the next day. She offers to join him, but he tells her to stay out of his things. She teases him, assuming he's going alone. Yujioka quickly insists that he isn't going by himself. Yujioka explains that he's going with a friend. His admission shocks Kaname. She skeptically asks if this friend is imaginary, but he tells her to go take a bath. Her excitement renewed, she begs to come along to meet his friend, which he flatly refuses. Pestering him as he walks away, she asks if his friend is a boy or a girl, and he quietly admits it's a girl. Kaname asks if he's picked out a cool swimsuit, certain that the girl will be wearing something super cute. Her words get Yujioka thinking, and he realizes he needs to make sure he doesn't look lame next to her. He discreetly starts searching for cute swimsuit on a tablet. He tells himself that Shimo Hoshizaki would never wear something so conventional. He is certain she wouldn't wear a cute swimsuit like a normal person. He imagines her choice would be something far more unexpected. He imagines Shimo Hoshizaki dressed head to toe in diving gear. He pictures her as a professional free-diving fisherwoman. In his imagined scenario, Shimo Hoshizaki enthusiastically suggests they gather seafood. Yujioka, feeling underdressed in his regular swim trunks, wonders what he should do. She reassures him that he can find clams and crabs in the shallows. He decides to stick to clams, wanting nothing to do with crabs. Shimo Hoshizaki remarks that the wind sounds strange. Yujioka asks what she means by that. A huge, swirling wave suddenly forms before him. Yujioka cries out as the waves drag him away. He washes ashore and finds himself in a vast wilderness. Spotting wild bananas, he dazedly wonders if he's been stranded on a deserted island. Panicked, Yujioka looks for Shimo Hoshizaki in the water. She suddenly emerges, triumphantly holding up a fish she speared. Relieved that she's safe, he tells her they've washed up on a deserted island. Unfazed, she says she's okay and suggests they live off fish and bananas until help arrives. Yugioka worries about what will happen if no one comes to rescue them. In response, Shimo Hoshizaki takes his hand. She confidently declares that she'll just keep spearfishing for them as many times as it takes. Yugioka is moved by her determination. He reflects on how foolish he was to be disappointed about a swimsuit and feels grateful for her. Resolved to help, he declares they'll survive together. He steels himself to even go after crabs. However, he's grossed out by the fish's underside, and Shimo Hoshizaki points out that means shrimp are off the table too. A crab pinches Yugioka. He screams in pain. But a moment later, he realizes it doesn't hurt at all, even though the claw is digging in. Confused, he wonders what's happening. He wonders if it's all a dream, just as his alarm clock starts ringing. Waking up, he turns it off. He reflects on the incredibly weird dream he just had. At the beach, Yugioka tells himself that it doesn't matter what kind of swimsuit she is wearing. The important thing is that she wanted to come to the beach with him. He decides to just enjoy the day. Just then Shimo Hoshizaki calls out, apologizing for the wait, and he says he just got there too. Yugioka turns to see Shimo Hoshizaki standing there in a cute, plaid one-piece swimsuit, holding an inner tube. Yugioka is utterly flabbergasted to see her in a normal swimsuit. Noticing his shock, she asks if it's all right. She shyly explains that it's an old swimsuit from a family trip and worries that it might not fit her properly anymore. Blushing, Shimo Hoshizaki nervously asks if she looks weird. Yugioka is flustered and struggles for words. He finally manages to tell her that she looks wonderful. Yugioka reflects on his summer break, feeling it was the most fulfilling time of his life despite the homework. But with the vacation over, it was time for the first day back at school. In the classroom, Shimo Hoshizaki cheerfully greets Yugioka, and he returns the greeting. She remarks that since they saw each other yesterday, it doesn't feel like they've been apart for long. Yugioka agrees with a simple yeah. As they settle into their seats, Yugioka begins to think about Shimo Hoshizaki. He reflects that his romantic feelings for her haven't changed. In fact, the summer they spent together only made them stronger. However, he also realizes he'd be okay with just staying friends forever. The reason is simple, right now he's truly happy. Yugioka concludes that even if they never become a couple, being this close to her might be enough. He feels that he's the happiest he's ever been and wishes these peaceful days could last forever. The teacher announces they will be selecting one male and one female representative for the sports festival committee via lottery. The male representative is announced to be Yugioka, who immediately feels this is the worst possible outcome. Yugioka feels he's hit the lowest point of his life. He vehemently refuses to participate in the barbaric tradition of the school sports festival. His aversion stems from a traumatic memory from elementary school practice where his height caused problems and his classmates told him to get smaller. He recalls being told to get lower as if he were about to lie down. He ended up lying flat on the ground, feeling utterly humiliated and in the way. The memory of that public shame fuels his current dread. As Yugioka stews in his nightmare, the teacher prepares to announce the female representative. To his complete shock, he hears Shimo Hoshizaki's name called. Yugioka turns to her, stunned by the development. Shimo Hoshizaki turns to Yugioka, telling him that having him there makes her feel much braver and that they should do their best together. Her earnestness sends Yugioka into a state of pure agony. Despite his internal turmoil, Yugioka forces a smile and gives her a strained thumbs up, enthusiastically agreeing to do it with her. They arrive at the first meeting for the Sports Festival Executive Committee. The third-year chairman, Mabuta, welcomes everyone. He gives a passionate speech to rally the members, hoping to make the festival unforgettable. Yugioka thinks the vibe isn't as bad as he expected. Mabuta then moves on to introduce the vice-chairman. The vice-chairman is revealed to be the popular Suzuki. Suzuki, a second-year, politely introduces himself to the committee. Yugioka is immediately struck by his dazzling appearance, thinking he must be incredibly popular. The other students are clearly infatuated, with Suzuki confirming Yugioka's suspicions of his popularity. Yugioka muses that their worlds are so different they would never have crossed paths if not for the committee. Suddenly, Suzuki's gaze seems to fixate on something. Shimo Hoshizaki notices him looking in their direction. Suzuki raises his hand in a small wave, looking directly towards them. Yugioka is stunned into silence, completely bewildered by the gesture. Yugioka briefly panics, wondering if the ridiculously popular student is waving at him. He quickly dismisses the idea, realizing the wave is aimed slightly to his side. He glances over and sees that Suzuki was waving at Shimo Hoshizaki, who is waving back. The realization leaves Yugioka completely shocked. Yugioka is left stunned, wondering what just happened. Meanwhile, the teacher continues to explain the sports festival committee's numerous responsibilities. Another student notices the exchange and questions if Suzuki-senpai and Shimo Hoshizaki-san are acquaintances. He tries to rationalize the interaction, telling himself that she only waved because he did, and it doesn't mean they actually know each other. Shimo Hoshizaki notices his lack of focus and gently reminds him to pay attention or he'll be scolded. Startled, Yugioka quickly apologizes. Yugioka decides he'll ask Shimo Hoshizaki about it later. The committee chairman announces that, as always, the executive committee will put on a performance at the end of the festival. This year, he declares with a slam on the board, it will be an intergrade relay race. The students are shocked by the announcement, worried that a relay with 10 runners per grade will be chaotic. The chairman explains that since they already have a lot of work, he chose an event that doesn't need much preparation, with the goal being to do their best as a team. The other members warm up to the idea, with one suggesting they all wear matching t-shirts. With that, the chairman adjourns the meeting for the day, telling them to meet again next week. After the meeting, Yugioka is frozen in place, his face contorted in distress. Shimo Hoshizaki approaches him, asking what's wrong. She comments that his face looks like a clay figurine. He can only manage to stammer her name in response. As they walk home, Shimo Hoshizaki correctly deduces that he's not good at running, and the relay is making him anxious. Yugioka confirms her suspicion. She tries to comfort him, pointing out that their senpai told them to take it easy, and no one will blame him for being a little slow. Yugioka quietly agrees, admitting he is definitely slow. Yugioka tells her that being slow isn't his biggest problem. Since no one is around to watch, he decides to show her the real issue. Setting his bag down, he prepares to run, telling her he's about to start. With a determined yet pained expression, Yugioka takes off, his body held in a bizarrely stiff and awkward running posture. Shimo Hoshizaki watches in wide-eyed shock as he continues his strange sprint. Her expression shifts to one of dawning realization. The reason for her shock is revealed. Yugioka runs with a peculiar form known as the frilled lizard dash. Panting, Yugioka explains that this is his situation. He can accept being slow, but his running form is so embarrassing he doesn't know what to do. Shimo Hoshizaki gently suggests that he could sit this one out, and nobody would be angry with him. Shimo Hoshizaki asks him what he truly wants to do. After a moment of hesitation, Yugioka clenches his fist and declares with newfound resolve that he doesn't want to give up. He admits that he finds sports festivals to be a terrible tradition and knows he's hopeless at group events. However, since he's made up his mind to live out his youth to the fullest, he wants to try enjoying even the things he hates. Yugioka asks her to teach him how to run properly. Moved by his determination, Shimo Hoshizaki eagerly agrees to help. She admits she doesn't really think about her own form and isn't sure she can be of much help. She agrees to try running for him so he can watch and learn. With a cheerful cry, Shimo Hoshizaki takes off. Yugioka is stunned by her incredible speed. She quickly returns, asking if watching her helped. When he admits it didn't really, she enthusiastically offers to go again. As Shimo Hoshizaki continues to dash back and forth, Yugioka has a realization. He sees her as a mix of frantic energy and relentless effort, a kind of all-around genius. The problem, he concludes, is that she's absolutely terrible at teaching because she just tries to brute force her way through everything. Yugioka feels helpless, thinking that since he was the one who asked for help, he can't complain. Suddenly, a voice from behind asks what they are doing. Yugioka turns to see Suzuki-senpai. Suzuki looks at Yugioka, trying to recall where he's seen him before, and asks if he was at the committee meeting earlier. Suzuki's gaze shifts past Yugioka, and he calls out to Shimo Hoshizaki by her first name, Kazuru-chan. Yugioka is utterly shocked to hear the familiar address. Blushing, Shimo Hoshizaki responds in kind, calling him Taru-kun. The revelation that they are on a first-name basis hits Yugioka hard, leaving him to wonder just how close the two of them really are. Suzuki, whom Shimo Hoshizaki calls Taru-kun, asks what she is talking about, leaving Yujioka stunned by their familiarity. A flustered Kazuru explains that she has been teaching Yujioka how to run. Yujioka feels like he's intruding on their conversation. Suzuki points out that Kazuru is known for being a bad teacher. Blushing, Kazuru sheepishly agrees, mentioning that her brother says the same thing. Yujioka is taken aback by how comfortable they are with each other, able to say such things out loud. He finds their connection unsettling. Meanwhile, Kazuru gets an idea. She brightly suggests that Taro should teach Yujioka how to run instead. Yujioka is shocked by the proposal. Taro readily agrees, saying he's free. Yujioka hesitates, trying to explain his reluctance. Unfazed, Taro simply asks to see him run first. Yujioka is flustered by his directness. As Yujioka demonstrates his bizarre frilled lizard dash, Taro can't contain his laughter. Watching him, Yujioka starts to think he might not like this guy. Taro insists Yujioka's running form is fine. He even declares the frilled lizard vibe cool and says he wants to try it. He then makes an outlandish comment about wanting to be one because they have two penises. Yujioka is appalled, yelling at him for saying such things. He quickly whispers for him to stop, especially in front of Shimo Hashizaki. This seems to give Taro an idea. Leaning in, Taro whispers that Yujioka is too easy to read. He correctly guesses that he's a virgin, making Yujioka scream internally. Taro laughs, finding him entertaining. He explains that he enjoys things that are bizarre and interesting. Taro whispers some words of encouragement to Yujioka, telling him to hang in there because Kazuru is an earnest and patient teacher. He then abruptly announces he has an errand to run and leaves. Kazuru is confused by his sudden departure. Taro reassures her that everything is fine. As he walks away, Taro bids them farewell, asking Yujioka to say hi to them for him. Yujioka is left confused. Watching him go, Yujioka reflects on Taro's words about others seeing Shimo Hashizaki's good qualities, and an uneasy feeling washes over him. He wants to ask about her relationship with Suzuki-senpai, but can't bring himself to do it. The thought of her being closer to Suzuki scares him. Shimo Hashizaki notices him spacing out and asks if something happened. Yujioka quickly dismisses it. She apologizes, realizing that with Taro gone, she's back to being his teacher. She confesses that she's not a great teacher, but feels happy when he relies on her. Yujioka reassures her, saying he's not a fast learner, but because she never gives up on him, she's the best teacher he could ask for. Delighted, Shimo Hashizaki declares them a perfect match. Yujioka agrees, calling it totally perfect. Energized, she gets ready to resume their training, determined to turn his frilled lizard run into a proper human one, causing Yujioka to realize that even she saw it that way. From that point on, their days became seriously busy. In the lead-up to the sports festival, they were both occupied with preparations. During their training, Yujioka found that Shimo Hashizaki's teaching methods were gradually becoming easier to understand. But at the same time, whenever he saw her talking with Suzuki-senpai, a familiar, uneasy feeling would return. He couldn't help but wonder about the nature of their relationship.